She took the severed head of the greatest conqueror the world had ever known, and she pushed it into a skin filled with blood. "You thirsted for blood," she told him. "Now drink your fill." Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, the man who had swallowed Babylon whole, who had shattered the Lydian Empire in a single campaign, who had never, not once, lost a war. He was not killed by a rival king or a palace coup or a Roman legion. He was killed by a widow, a nomad queen on the edge of the known world, whose name the histories nearly forgot. This is the story of Tomyris of the Massagetae, the woman who outsmarted the world's most powerful man, watched his empire tremble, and then made sure history remembered exactly how he died. By 530 BC, Cyrus the Great had run out of things to conquer. That is not an exaggeration. In less than 30 years, he had taken the Persian throne from his grandfather through cunning and force, absorbed the Median Empire without a siege, crushed the famously wealthy King Croesus of Lydia in a campaign so swift it felt like a rumor, and then marched into Babylon, the greatest city on earth, while its people celebrated a festival, barely noticing they had a new master. He freed the Jews from captivity. He tolerated local gods rather than smashing temples. The Persians called him father. The Greeks, who feared him, called him worthy of the title. He was, by every measurable standard, the most successful conqueror who had ever lived. But Cyrus had a problem that no amount of diplomacy could solve. Power requires expansion to feel secure. Stop moving, and the wolves circle. So he turned his eyes east, past the Oxus River, toward the vast Eurasian steppe, a landscape of grass and wind and people who had never bowed to a city, never paid tribute to a palace, never been organized enough to be worth defeating. The Massagetae lived there. They were Scythian-related nomads, extraordinary horsemen, fearless fighters, unimpressed by civilization. Their queen was named Tomyris. She had recently become a widow, and she had no intention of replacing her dead husband with a Persian one. When Cyrus sent an embassy with a marriage proposal, she understood immediately what it meant. A marriage to Cyrus was annexation with better manners. She sent the ambassadors back with her answer. She was not interested. Cyrus regrouped. If she would not be taken by marriage, she would be taken by force. He began the enormous logistical task of moving a Persian army to the edge of the known world. He built a bridge of boats across the Oxus River, a feat of engineering that itself demonstrated Persian power. And then he faced a decision that would determine how the campaign was fought. Tomyris sent him a message. She offered a strange, almost contemptuous proposal. Let one army cross entirely into the other's territory. Fight on Persian soil or fight on hers. No river between them. One battle. Decide it cleanly. Cyrus consulted his advisors. Most said cross the river, press the attack. But one of his generals, a Lydian named Croesus who had survived the destruction of his own kingdom, gave different counsel. Cross the river, yes, but fight differently. Nomads can't be beaten in an open cavalry charge. Bait them. Cyrus listened. He ordered a camp set up on the Massagetae side of the river with a deliberate weakness, feasting tables loaded with wine. The Persians pulled back, left the camp visible, and waited. Tomyris had sent her son Spargapeses to lead the advance force. He was young, brave, and had never encountered wine before. The Massagetae didn't drink it. They drank it now. The Persians returned after dark and fell on the feasting camp. The slaughter was efficient. Spargapeses was taken alive. The prince, the queen's only son, in chains. Tomyris sent a final message to Cyrus. Release my son. Leave my lands. I am warning you. Cyrus did not release her son. And Spargapeses, when he recovered from the wine and understood his captivity, understood that his mother would have to pay any ransom Cyrus named, asked for his chains to be removed long enough to compose himself. They removed the chains. He killed himself before anyone could stop him. There is a specific quality to grief that has been forced. Natural grief is devastating, but grief that has been caused deliberately, grief engineered by another person to make you weaker, that transmutes into something else entirely. Tomyris received the news of her son's death. She had warned Cyrus. She had given him the mercy of an exit. He had used her warning to calculate how much leverage a dead son gave him over a mother. She understood this perfectly. She sent him one final message. It was not a plea. It was a declaration. I warned you. You rejected my advice. You made my son a prisoner through treachery, not in open battle. Now hear me. I will give you your fill of blood. Then she assembled her full army. What followed is described by Herodotus as the greatest battle the Persian Empire ever fought. No other engagement in Cyrus's entire campaign history is described in such terms. The Massagetae did not fight like infantry. They did not fight like civilized soldiers. They fought in interlocking waves, cavalry, archers, close combat, and they had been living on the steppe their entire lives. They knew the terrain, they knew the grass, they knew the wind and the angles. The Persians had more discipline. The Massagetae had more fury. The battle was long. It turned. And then it turned again. Cyrus the Great died in the grass. He was killed in the final stages of the battle. Whether by an arrow, a spear, or in close combat, the sources disagree. Herodotus is clear only on what happened next. Tomyris searched the battlefield for his body. She found it. She had brought with her a skin, the kind nomads carried water or fermented mare's milk in, and she had filled it with blood, the blood of the battle. The blood her son had died for. The blood Cyrus had spilled on his way to the edge of the world. She placed Cyrus's severed head inside the skin. I warned you, she is reported to have said. I told you I would give you your fill of blood. Now drink. It is an act that is almost impossible to interpret as pure savagery. It is too deliberate, too specific. The words she chose, the exact echo of her own warning, make it clear this was not rage. It was completion. She had told him what would happen, and she had made it happen, and she was marking the moment so that anyone who heard the story would understand exactly who had won and why. Cyrus the Great, the liberator of Babylon, the father of the Persian Empire, the man no other king had ever defeated, ended his reign in a skin of blood held by a woman he had underestimated. The Persian army withdrew. There was no second campaign. There would not be one for decades. Darius the Great, who eventually succeeded Cyrus, did try to campaign against the Scythians. He failed. He retreated from the steppe with his army intact, but his pride destroyed, having never forced an engagement with people who simply refused to stand and fight. The steppe had beaten two of history's greatest military minds. Tomyris's victory was not just personal, it was strategic. It demonstrated something the ancient world was slow to absorb, that there are forms of organization that cannot be beaten by the methods of settled empires. The nomads did not build cities because cities can be taken. They did not store grain because grain can be seized. They moved, they adapted, they dissolved into the landscape when pressed, and they struck when the enemy was overextended. Tomyris herself disappears from the historical record after this moment. We don't know how long she ruled, how she died, whether her people flourished for generations or were absorbed by some other migration. The Massagetae themselves vanish from the sources within a few centuries, but the image survives. The severed head in the skin of blood. The queen on the edge of the world who said, I warned you, and then proved it. She is remembered in medieval paintings, in Persian miniatures, in Renaissance allegories, always with the same image. A queen, a skin, a head. There is a statue of her in Tashkent, Uzbekistan today. A woman who lived before Uzbekistan existed by 2,000 years, who spoke a language no one can reconstruct, who rode horses across a landscape that is now city and farmland. and whose name survived because of what she did to a man everyone else called great. The greatest conqueror in the ancient world came to the edge of her world and told her she had two choices. She gave him a third one. Herodotus says Tomyris won. Ctesias says Cyrus survived and died elsewhere, years later. The Persians, unsurprisingly, preferred that version. But here is what is true, regardless of which account you believe. Cyrus the Great died before he took the step. The Massagetae were never conquered, and no Persian source celebrates a victory over them. History is written by the survivors, but sometimes the survivors were the ones the empires forgot to write down. What is it about this kind of story, the widow on the edge of the known world who beats the unbeatable king, that keeps getting buried? And why do we always have to dig it back up?